little fragments, and then another short section from the story. The Lucite Cane. Blue sky, summer day, one car after another. A woman talking back to the radio, the thread of her voice trailing through the open window of her Chevette. Another woman sucking into her mouth the deflated bubble of her bubblegum. Two boys riding in the bed of a pickup truck, one expertly flicking away his cigarette butt. Yellow ribbon in support of our troops. Ticking of a blinker. An attorney who last year was defeated in his bid for the city school board calling "Maria" into the mouthpiece of his cell phone. Another man telling the woman beside him about the television show he'd watched last night. The woman in her Chevette snapping, "Go to hell." A baby wailing, straining against the belt of his car seat. A brother pinching his sister. A sister slapping her brother. A retired social studies teacher fuming as he heads back to the hardware store to return a garden hose with a cracked nozzle. A retired sales clerk crying silently because today is the 22nd anniversary of her son's death. An anesthesiologist pretending not to listen to her daughter and two friends in the back seat trading gossip. It was like, you know, and when she said she did, she really meant she did. Red light remaining red, while the green light changes to orange. Cars idling. Cars speeding up. A man with a cane appearing out of nowhere. A fly bumping against a rear window. A squirrel on a branch. The woman chewing bubblegum watching the man with a cane as he steps off the curb. The same woman moving her foot to the brake. A paper flag tied to an antenna. A squirrel leaping. A brass plaque on a stone near the intersection marking what was once a spur of the Ohio Trail. The young mother yelling at her children. The attorney calling, "Maria, Maria, hello, are you there?" Two boys laughing. Three girls laughing. Because she didn't have to, you know. A squirrel catching the tip of a branch to save itself from falling. Orange light changing to red, red changing to green. The outrage of money spent on faulty merchandise. The fact of dirt. The annoyance of dry skin. The man with a cane stepping off a curb. A child complaining. A squirrel swinging on a branch above the sidewalk. Boys watching the squirrel. Girls watching the boys. The retired sales clerk noticing the man with the lucite cane and failing to remember the words she wants to shout in warning. The woman with her foot on the brake wondering if the old man has Alzheimer's. A fly buzzing. The driver of the pickup truck banging his hand on the horn to warn the man with the cane. A woman singing, "If I could see." A cloud slipping like a cutout in front of the edge of the sun. A plastic gallon of 2% milk lying on its side in the trunk. A flock of sparrows rising all at once like smoke. Like I was saying. The imprint of last night's strange dream on the waking mind. Imagining the time when she didn't exist. Heading east. Heading south. 12 minutes after 4. Damn. The man with the lucite cane is Abe, and he, appeared wandering through across this intersection. He's not really there, actually, but at that moment he was real enough to me. And part of the magic magic of writing, of any artist, that we begin with nothing. With memory and experience and whatever imagination can do to it. But that blank page is kind of terrifying. Or now the blank screen, which is even more terrifying because there are all these distractions you can click onto. But then how we manage to fill it, how it gets filled, how a page gets filled with words that tell a story. We, as teachers, we're always trying to figure out how that gets done. I'm not sure we ever can. But anyway, there he arrived, his ghostly self in that scene, which continues, but I won't continue reading it. I'll skip forward to a little scene where, now, has anybody been to Rochester? Has anybody just okay, admit it. You are embarrassed to admit that you live in Buffalo. You're embarrassed to admit you live in Rochester. No, we are, very similar. We're twin cities. Rochester a little bit smaller, but you might know of a bar called Jeremiah's. Does anybody know Jeremiah's? No, on Monroe Avenue. You know Jeremiah's. Yeah. You've never been to Jeremiah's? Yeah, it's really wonderful. They have a great fish fry on Friday. Although now they've introduced the flat screen TV, so I find that less appealing. So anyway, here's Abe earlier, a few years before that scene, sitting at Jeremiah's. Abe sat on a stool in Jeremiah's, sipping the foam off his beer. It was a dreary February afternoon, and the tavern was empty except for Abe, two bikers playing pool, and the bartender who was watching the TV above the bar. That was before the flat screen TV. What was worth saying aloud, Abe wondered as he slid his hands along the tapered glass. He'd already asked the bartender, "How are you today, young fellow?" And the bartender had shrugged, clearly finding the question too dull to answer. Abe would have liked to stir his interest. There were a lot of interesting subjects he would have proposed for discussion. Barbecue sauces, gardening, politics, his stamp collection, his nephews, John Wayne. But the bartender was more interested in the two women on TV, a mother and her grown daughter, who were in love with the same man. Apparently, the man, a high school principal, was waiting off camera for a turn to tell his side of the story. Another gray winter day in the gray city that had been his home for more than half a century, and Abe had nothing better to look forward to than the evening's bingo. The truth was, he'd been playing bingo regularly for 20 years and had never won. That's sad. Everyone agreed that victory for Abe was long overdue. It was terrible to think that time was running out, and he might never win. At least he could still appreciate the simplest of impressions. The smoothness of the glass between his hands, for instance, or the relief of a belch. He always belched politely, muting the sound with his closed fist, an effort he'd perfected at the behest of Edna, his long-ago wife. Long-ago lovers, you and me, he mused. Young rascals. Edna and Abe, Abe and Edna. Forget about the disappointments. We had each other, year after year. Remember when? Of course you remember when. You're in heaven now. You remember everything, even the eternity before you were born. Such is the expansive consciousness of angels. Abe believed that at his age he had a right to believe whatever he pleased. He'd spent most of his life believing in nothing more than possibility, but after he lost Edna, he couldn't help it. When he imagined his wife, he imagined her alive, floating comfortably above in a heaven that couldn't be less than heavenly. Down here, human effort would always continue to be riven by bitter disputes. Isn't there always someone ready to take what someone else has? The bartender, for instance, was ready to take Abe's $5. Each of the bikers was planning to claim the pack of cigarettes they bet on this game of pool. One man's loss was necessarily the other's gain in this world of never-ending competition where only the fittest are expected to survive. Gray daylight hung like cardboard against the glass of the front door. Inside, the strongest illumination came from